children playing on the school grounds from afar. There is an invisible line that divides the world into halves. They are on the inside of the bright magic circle of life, while my feet are frozen on the dark outside of everything. My throat closes tightly as the cold asthma attacks my chest. And he looks at me with those worried eyes full of pity. She thinks a summer in Norfolk will heal my broken spirit. The train carries my lonely body toward the distant marshlands, away from the grey streets of London that suffocated my voice. But the heavy luggage of my sadness travels along with me. The sea breeze of little Overton greets my pale face today. The old Mr. and Mrs. Pegg open their wooden door with a smile. They offer me a warm bed and a refuge from my deep silence. But my heart remains locked behind a thick wall of glass. I am a ghost walking among the living without leaving a trace. I spend the long afternoons wandering alone through the silent salt marshes. The sharp cry of the gulls echoes the constant lament inside my head. The gray sky stretches out without a single path to guide my footsteps. I feel like a complete stranger in the middle of this peaceful country town, a small shadow that does not belong to the beauty of the landscape. The people here think I am just a quiet child who loves nature. They do not suspect the anger that burns under my calm surface. I hate myself for being unable to smile like the other girls. I am convinced that I was born without the gift of being loved, and that my destiny is to remain a spectator until the end. The sea breeze of little Overton greets my pale face today. The old Mr. and Mrs. Pegg open their wooden door with a smile. Without leaving a trace. The evening arrives and the cold wind from the shore makes me cough severely. I look down at the shallow pools left by the tide on the edge of the water. The water distorts my image and I turn my face away in deep shame. I do not want to be a burden for the people who look after my life. The darkness grows deeper and the loneliness weighs too much tonight. There is no place in this universe where I can feel at home. The sky of Norfolk turns purple and prepares for the night. I sink my hands into my pockets to hide my constant trembling, wishing that the wind would carry me away to a forgotten place, where the pain of being outside the circle would finally cease. Oh, lonely horizon that marks the boundary of this forgotten coast, give me a single sign that my existence matters to someone in the world. The cold wind from the sea makes me cough in this abandoned corner of earth. I am drowning in my own silence, without a single friend to hold my hand, doomed to fade away into the night before the arrival of the morning light. The twilight falls gently over the neap tides of Norfolk. A mysterious blue light flickers behind the windows of the old mansion. I row my small boat across the quiet water towards the shore, and there she stands on the wooden pier under the evening sky, a girl with long golden hair and a dress made of fine linen. She reaches out her hand and pulls me onto the green grass. Her touch feels real, but her presence belongs to a fairy tale. She tells me her name is Marnie and smiles with absolute warmth. We promise to keep our encounters a secret from the rest of the world. The heavy wall of glass around my heart begins to crumble down. A beautiful bond is born in the middle of the misty salt marshes. Two lonely souls find a sanctuary away from their daily miseries. She calls me her precious girl and kisses my pale forehead. The darkness of the night is no longer a frightening place for me, because her affection brings a sweet warmth to my frozen spirit. We spend the hidden hours sharing the deep truths of our lives. Marnie confesses that her rich parents leave her alone for months, that the cruel maids lock her in her bedroom when the storms rage. She's a prisoner inside a castle of gold and elegant furniture, suffering from a neglect that mirrors the emptiness of my own past. I hold her hands tightly to give her the comfort she never received. I realize that this perfect girl also carries a heavy burden of sorrow. broken wings, resting on the sand together. She tells me that I came to save her from her desperate solitude, and her words heal the old wounds that London inflicted on my mind. A beautiful bond is born in the middle of the misty salt marshes. Two lonely souls find a sanctuary away from their daily miseries. She calls me her precious girl and kisses my pale forehead. The darkness of the night is no longer a frightening place for me, because her affection brings a sweet warmth to my frozen spirit. The wind starts to blow harder through the reeds of the marshland. The tide is rising fast and warns us that our time is running out. Marnie has to return to the grand house before the lights go out. We share a final embrace on the edge of the dark water, knowing that our friendship is the only anchor in this shifting world. I walk back to the village with a light step and a new hope. The magic circle of life has finally opened its doors for my soul. I am no longer the unwanted outsider looking from the window. I have a sister of the soul who waits for me in the penumbra, and the purple sky of Norfolk now looks like a beautiful dream. Oh, wind of the coast, protect the secret paradise of our youth, where the love of two children challenges the laws of time and reality. The moonlight on the waves elevates our feelings above the cruel earth. I am alive because her blue eyes looked at my forgotten shadow, and no future storm will be able to erase this memory from my heart. The sky of Norfolk turns black as coal as the heavy storm begins to break. Marnie takes my hand and drags me toward the hill in an absolute panic. She whispers that the old ruined windmill is the only place to hide from the rain. Her fingers are shaking with a terrifying fear that spreads through my own body, while the lightning flashes in the darkness and illuminates the dangerous path. We push open the rotten wooden door and enter the cold and dusty tower. The wind howls like a wounded beast through the broken windows of the room. Marnie collapses in a corner, sobbing at the shadows that haunt her mind. I try to hold her close to my chest and shield her from the cruel noise, but the ceiling of the old mill shudders under the pounding rain. The storm rages outside, and inside the sudden chaos of nature breaks the paradise we built in the marshes. She looks at me with those wide eyes full of an ancient and deep despair. I promise that I will never leave her side in the middle of this night, but the thunder drowns my words and leaves us in total isolation. I leave her for a brief minute to look for a dry place among the ruins. The darkness becomes so thick that I can barely see my own hands. When I return to the corner, the space is empty and cold as ice. I scream her name against the walls, but only the echo answers back. Marnie has vanished from the tower without a single trace behind. I walk out into the pouring rain, a sharp knife twisting in my chest. I see a silhouette running in the distance with a group of elegant strangers. She has left me alone in the middle of the danger without looking back. The sweet warmth of a past embrace turns into a bitter poison. Today, a wave of rejection washes over me as my throat begins to close tight. The storm rages outside, and inside the circle of our secret friendship, the sudden chaos of nature breaks the paradise we built in the marshes. She looks at me with those wide eyes full of an ancient and deep despair. I promise that I will never leave her side in the middle of this night, but the thunder drowns my words and leaves us in total isolation. My legs lose all their strength and I collapse onto the wet mud of the hill. The cold air triggers an asthma attack and I cannot breathe the freezing air. I realize that I am once again the unwanted orphan on the outside of life. The illusion of being loved fades away like a ghost under the lightning. The heavy chords of the piano repeat their motif without any mercy. I hate myself for believing that a rich girl could truly be my sister. The world belongs to those inside, and my destiny is to die in the shadows. The fever burns my head while the rain washes away my useless tears. The old peg couple finds my sick body shivering under the dark sky, carrying me back to the village while my mind sinks into a dark abyss. Oh, cruel storm that exposed the falsehood of my short happiness. Marnie has abandoned my soul in the worst moment of the night. The illusion of the marsh house was just a trap to break my heart. I am drowning in the water and the silence of this abandoned country town. There is no magic circle for a shadow that was born to be fever leaves my body, but a heavy emptiness remains in my mind. The old mind marsh house is no longer silent and abandoned under the sun. A new family named Lindsay fills the rooms with laughter and games. I watch them from the fence with a quiet wonder in my eyes as they welcome my lonely steps into their cheerful circle of life. I walk through the grand corridors with my new friend Scylla. We climb the wooden stairs toward the dusty attic of the oldest bedroom. There in a hidden corner, behind the loose wallpaper, my fingers touch a small book covered in the shadows of the past. It is an old blue diary that contains the secrets of another time. I open the yellow pages and find the hand of a girl lost in time. Marnie wrote her secret thoughts many decades before my birth. Every word she left behind mirrors the sorrow of our quiet nights. She was real and her voice still lives inside this paper castle. The light of truth begins to pierce the thick fog of my memory. I read about her strict parents who danced in the grand ballrooms, about the cruel maids who locked her inside the windmill during the storm. She did not abandon me to betray my heart. She was trapped in a time that my own soul cannot comprehend. The ink of the past washes away the bitter anger from my chest. I take the old diary and walk through the village to ask the elders. An old lady by the shore looks at the names written in the book. She tells me the sad history of the beautiful girl with golden hair who married and left the marsh house to escape her lonely youth, leaving behind the ghost of her childhood in the salt marshes. I open the yellow pages and find the hand of a girl lost in time. Marnie wrote her secret thoughts many decades before my birth. Every word she left behind mirrors the sorrow of our quiet nights. She was real and her voice still lives inside this paper castle. The light of truth begins to pierce the thick fog of my memory. The pieces of the puzzle begin to connect under the evening sky. The mysterious connection that drew my footsteps toward the mansion. It was not a trick of my fever, nor a cruel magic of the wind. A bridge of love is stretching across the deep chasm of the years. The heavy strings of the orchestra rise with a solemn intensity. I look at the purple horizon of Norfolk with a different heart. The ghost of my friendship becomes a sacred relic lost in time. I am tracing the footsteps of someone who loved this lonely shore. The secret of the marsh house is unraveling before my wide eyes, and the pain of being an outsider begins to lose its sharp edge me that I was never completely alone in this world. The old lady by the shore tells me the last chapter of the story. Marnie grew up and had a daughter who died in a tragic accident, leaving behind a tiny baby girl all alone in the middle of London. That old grandmother spent her final years cradling that child in her arms, telling her stories about a grand house in the salt marshes of Norfolk. The lightning of the truth strikes my mind and washes away the dark fog. That tiny baby girl was me, and Marnie was my own flesh and blood. She was the grandmother who held me before she vanished from the earth. Her blue eyes and her golden hair were the first image of love I knew. My mind had forgotten her name, but my soul remembered her embrace. I am inside the magic circle of a love that never abandoned my life. I am no longer the unwanted outsider, looking at the world through glass. Marnie came back to these misty shores to heal her lonely child. The blood in my veins connects my steps to the history of this mansion, and the heavy luggage of my old sadness disappears into the sea. I walk alone one last time toward the wooden pier of the marsh house. I look up at the window where the mysterious blue light used to flicker. I see her silhouette standing there, smiling with a quiet gentleness. She waves her hand to say goodbye with a peace that fills the evening air. She does not belong to the shadows anymore, because her mission is done. Goodbye, my Marnie, I whisper against the soft murmur of the waves. Thank you for finding my forgotten shadow in the middle of the darkness. Thank you for showing me that I was born from a long line of love. I forgive the storm at the old windmill and the silence of your departure, because I know you loved me before I even knew my own name. I am inside the magic circle of a love that never abandoned my life. I am no longer the unwanted outsider, looking at the world through glass. Marnie came back to these misty shores to heal her lonely child. The blood in my veins connects my steps to the history of this mansion, and the heavy old sadness disappears into the sea. And he arrives from London, and her worried eyes meet my new smile. I run into her open arms and feel a warmth I never thought I could feel again. I call her mother for the first time, without any anger in my chest. I understand that her protection was a real sanctuary all this time. The majestic strings of the orchestra rise to celebrate my new birth. I leave the country town of Little Overton with my heart completely open. The world is no longer divided into halves of light and shadow. I am part of the inside, and my destiny is to live with hope. The memory of the golden hair will be my anchor for the future, as the train carries my healed body back to the streets of my home. Together in a garment of